All right, we are live.
Are we now? Are we really? I'm waiting
Yes.
for the YouTube to go live. I'm watching it.
No,
Watching
okay,
it
we are live. It just takes a few seconds for it to show up on YouTube and Facebook. But people are gonna see the video since the moment that I said we are live. So you could start.
Well,
You
that
could
means I
start
can
talking. Oh, Susanna's saying your live audio is good. Susanna has very useful information always in the live chat.
Oh my God! Genetically modified skeptic is here.
What, really?
Drew.
Celebrity.
Celebrity
Yes.
in the audience.
Yes, this is amazing.
Celebrity. Yeah.
One of my heroes in the live chat.
So what's going on? Are we doing this?
I miss Drew. I miss talking to Drew.
I know.
Yeah.
Drew, we miss talking to you. We should have you back on again just to shoot the shit.
Yes, yeah, we should just have him back on if he. Well, I don't know. We're too small for him, so he might say just like, "I'm not gonna waste my time with you guys." But we should have him with no topic, just talk about random, like today, or with Drew.
All right.
Yeah. So just start. Oh yeah, Drew said yes. He accepted our invitation. Yes.
Okay, yeah, of course. Well, man, my beard's gone. I feel naked. Like my faith, my face is exposed.
Reason on faith is on here as well.
Okay, I have something. Keep that reason on faith thing on because I have something to say to him. All right.
Okay.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Secular Jihadists for a Muslim Enlightenment. That's what we're called, right? Yeah, that's what we're called. And I'm here with the great Armin Navabi, who's drinking. Is that kombucha stuff, or what are you drinking?
It's just a non-alcoholic. I don't know what this is.
It's something non-alcoholic. So this is the end of April.
Alcohol is banned, by the way, here where I am. There's complete ban because of the. I don't know what the reasoning is. I think there's more domestic violence during the quarantine, and that's why they banned alcohol.
Oh, they do? Really? Man, Duterte's got his shit together, huh?
I cannot speak about Duterte. I have this policy of don't shit where you eat. I'm not as brave as those ex-Muslims in Pakistan or Bangladesh or in Saudi Arabia and Iran who seem to be going against authority. I refuse to speak about Duterte while I'm in the Philippines.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
You just spoke about him quite a bit, but in any case,
that was when I was in Canada. I'm not speaking about him when I'm in the Philippines. But go on.
We are at the end of April. Everybody, a lot of places around the world, we're still kind of in lockdown. We're still in quarantine, staying at home. So what better thing to do than just hang out with your friends, Armin and Ali, the secular jihadists, and just sort of chill. And this is going to be, once a month, what we do is we do this Q&A where you guys ask your questions. We just have a conversation about everything. It doesn't have to be topical. It can be about anything. Armin can tell you about his fitness routine, diet and exercise recipes. If you have any relationship issues,
with all the disclaimers necessary that I'm not an expert and all that.
We're not experts, but that whole thing of expertise is dead now. I mean, virtually nobody who's out there talking about anything is an expert on anything nowadays. So it's good. We're in good company. This is the world.
No, you have to give the disclaimer though.
Okay. Yeah.
You have to give the disclaimer. You could tell people, if you're not an expert, you could give people your methodology in finding the experts, because I think a lot of people don't even know how to, okay, fine, you're not an expert. How do we go find the information? That's something that we need to teach people. That's something that Drew actually can teach people on Genetically Modified Skeptic, right? Like he's an expert in researching, and he's an expert at being a skeptic. He could go through the process of how he does his research before each one of his videos. That would be something I would watch.
Okay,
I think that's a great idea. That's a great idea.
So that's what we're on about. And before we start, I just want to say a couple of things. First of all, very happy birthday to Sohail Ahmed. Sohail, happy birthday to you, Sohail. If you recall, is Reason on Faith. That's his online name, and he used to belong to.
I'm still scared of actually saying Sohail, because I I know he's out, but I was so panicked about mentioning his name publicly on air every time that he showed up that I still, even though now he's out as an ex-Muslim, that fear of like outing him without him being ready, is still making me like, I don't know. I still haven't gotten over that, so I still I can't say his name.
That's cool. Well. Anyway, it was his birthday recently, so happy birthday to you, and thanks for all the work you did. So Sohail he was part of the Ahmadiyya sect of Islam, and he left it. And he made this amazing video.
So technically, not a true ex-Muslim.
Yeah, that's technically not. Oh, and guess who else? Karen is here. Karen Lumley Kerr is here. Karen and I have something in common. We were born. I'm sorry, I'm giving this away, Karen, but we were born on the exact same day, the same year. So that day and that year is when we were born. That was May 29th, 1975. Both of us were born, and there was one other person born on that day, and that was Scary Spice from the Spice Girls. So all three of us, our birthday, me and Karen and Scary Spice, were all born in 1975 on May 29th, which is amazing. So we should have let's see if we can get in touch with her and have a birthday party in quarantine over Zoom. Anyway, so those are the things I wanted to say, and now I guess we can move on and start.
By the way, so I can tell you some of the give you. By the way, guys, send us some questions. I think we already got some questions, but one thing I suggest we could get started in talking about. I actually made a list. I could tell you about the things that in the past year or 5 years or 1 year, depending on what people want, things that I've fundamentally changed my mind about, right? Because we keep talking about, like, we used to be Muslim, and that was a long time ago, and now we're ex-Muslim. And a lot of people think like, oh, now that they're atheists, they have figured everything out. But if you haven't changed your mind not on small things, like, oh, I thought that restaurant was good, now I realize that their food sucks. No, something like huge, something fundamental. If you haven't changed your mind on something major for a very long time, I'm not saying that's a sign that you're not being open-minded. Maybe you are being open-minded, but that's a sign that's a red flag. Like, you have to be worried. Like, why have I, in the past, like, a year or two, why haven't I changed my mind about something? Am I really right about almost everything? Probably not. So you should be worried. Maybe, like, you're not being open-minded enough. Maybe you're not investigating your ideas that much. So what we can do is we could talk about some of the things that we changed our minds on, unless we get some other questions. So I don't know. People in the live chat could tell us if that's what we want to talk about.
I have a question here from Stony Lonesome, who's saying, whatever happened to Deadshire? So the reason I want to address this is because I'm actually bringing it back. So Deadshire was the band that I was in. We do have a music video that's lurking around online, Deadshire. It's called You Make It Hard. That's the title of the song. So now you guys can check that out. But I'm actually gearing up to get that whole thing started again. That the last time we did anything with them was 2013, but we are going to get started with it again. Okay. So let's go. Next question.
You pick the question.
No, you've got it on screen.
No, that's not for us. That's for Drew. I can answer this actually. What's your favorite weed consumption method? What is yours, Ali? Can we say I don't want to say the word that is on the screen because I don't know how YouTube is going to treat that.
Yeah, for me, I am a very, very occasional partaker of it, but I just prefer smoking. I always like cigarettes. I try not to do it.
Aren't you a doctor?
Yeah. Psychiatrists have the highest rates of divorce. Right? I used to smoke with a cancer surgeon actually back in Buffalo. I used to take.
I prefer edibles. They're less harmful. I haven't, I haven't used much. It's very strange because THC didn't have an impact on me for more than a decade, and then the only time that it finally started having an impact on me, like, I tried everything. I tried cookies. I tried vaping. I tried so many things. I tried smoking it, and nothing. It had no impact. I just liked the smell of it but it wouldn't make me high. And then when it finally started having an impact on me, it was when I was leaving Vancouver, which is one of the most friendliest city to, like, THC and everything, all things related. And now I'm in one of the most unfriendly country in the world. I mean, I actually didn't like the feeling.
Kill you for it, right? If anybody
Yes.
has it on them.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. This is the most. I went from the most friendly country in the world when it comes to weed consumption to the most unfriendly one, but one of the most unfriendly ones. But I don't know if I actually liked the feeling. I didn't like the feeling. I liked the feeling of. I mean, I didn't like the feeling, but it was like fun experiment in Amsterdam, which experimented with some other things.
Oh yeah, like, you were like gone for the whole weekend.
Yeah, we actually recorded that experiment, but I don't know if we're allowed to publish it. I don't think YouTube would like that.
It's legal.
It was legal. Where I never did anything illegal. Everything that we ever consumed at any place, it was completely legal to do it where we did it. So in Amsterdam, what we did was legal, and we recorded, like, me and a whole bunch of other ex-Muslims. We had a really fun experiment, and I don't know if I can mention their names. They said that it's fine to record and publish it, but I don't know if that's a good idea.
Right.
I don't know if YouTube would like that idea. Maybe I'll get back to them and tell them, are they still okay with publishing it, and maybe publish it somewhere outside of YouTube. Actually, I don't know. I don't know if me being in the Philippines and having a video out like that will get me in trouble.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So anyway,
maybe just don't. Question. Maybe not risk it. Hey.
Yeah, there's a question from Susanna who's saying, first question for Pathology Boy Ali. How does Gad Sad's falafel taste? I never had it, Susanna. So the background on this is I had sort of just said something. This is a friendly little just sort of poking that happens between scientists and physicians, and then social scientists, like sociologists, psychologists, and all that. And we just say they're not scientists. It's like how they say dentists aren't doctors. So I think I tweeted something about that, where it was Trump's one of his economic advisors, Peter Navarro, had said something about hydroxychloroquine and how it should be used, and then he had defended himself by saying, hey, but I am a scientist, I'm a social scientist. So I had written something like, well, social scientists aren't scientists, and Gad Saad was very badly triggered by that, and he went on a whole rant about how social scientists are scientists. Now, my parents are both professors or social scientists. I think that social science has a huge contribution to the world. I think it's very important. Whether it's an actual science, I think it's very, very different from hard science. And generally, doctors and scientists, well, like hard scientists, don't really get very upset if a social scientist says, well, you're not doing real science, because we know we don't have any insecurities about it. We all know what we're doing. But the social scientists tend to take it a little personally. So he did as well. I haven't tasted his falafel, though. I'm pretty sure it's really good. I mean, he's Lebanese. I've seen some of the stuff he cooks. I think he's probably really good, and I would love to try it if he still thinks that I should. That's it.
I mean, whether it's science or not science, as long as it's useful.
Yeah, it was a joke. Like, that's the thing. I always like needling, but that's the thing. Like I tweeted. I don't have to explain a joke. Like I wrote, I was like, the skull caps that Muslims and Jews wear are supposed to symbolize their amputated foreskins. Now that was a joke, and people are like, oh, where's the reference? I don't know where the source is, and just let them go with whatever they want to go with. It's okay. It's all in fun. People too serious.
By the way, somebody mentioned something that we really should highlight.
Yeah. What is it?
Where was that? I lost it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Please mention Mubarak Bala. He has been arrested in Nigeria. Yeah, we've been. Me and Ali have been talking about this. We're gonna cover this. We're trying to find somebody to come on our show and cover this. He's a humanist, the one whose dad had him in an asylum for being an atheist a couple of years ago. yeah, this guy has been in trouble for a while. He's an atheist in Nigeria, and his atheism is getting him in a lot of trouble. And we are planning on figuring out a way to highlight his case. And I don't know, maybe if there's any way we could help him to do that. Yeah, I reached out. I have done some reaching out in different places, and hopefully some people would like by us covering it, some people with bigger platforms might decide to cover it as well, because that's usually how it works. So I did reach out to some people. I'm waiting for them to get back to me.
Okay, sounds good. Are you going in order with the questions? Jeremy Frank has one. He's saying, what is your guys' take?
Give me the timestamp whenever you mention something.
Okay, hold on. Let's see. Let me go into live stamp. So, oh shit, now I have to go all the way up. All right, so Jeremy Frank, 1002. He's saying, what is your guys' take on the Nation of Islam? So the Nation of Islam is a
racist
movement that happened in the U.S., right? And it is a sect of Muslims who are Black Muslims. So it's run by, Louis Farrakhan is associated with it. Malcolm X was associated with it. Muhammad Ali, the boxer, the member of Nation of Islam, started by this guy named Elijah Muhammad. It's actually pretty different from mainstream Islam, but
yeah, just tell them it's a racist group, very different from mainstream Islam, but still, I guess technically Islam.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's just very bizarre. Like we could do an entire show on them, like their beliefs. When I learned about them and went through their beliefs, I'm like, what the hell is this? This is like a mutation of Islam. It's just like with some freaky. I mean, it's for a lot of people that are not familiar with Islam, they seem as freaky as Islam itself. But when you have experience with mainstream Islam, and then you get exposed to all these offshoots, you would like, for you it looks like a Frankenstein monster, because you're so used to actually the mainstream version of Islam. So I think a lot of people might not get as shocked as what they believe in as people like me and you who were ex-Muslim. It's just the same as like if you're not familiar with Christianity and then you learn about Mormonism and about Christianity at the same time, you see them as both equally ridiculous, right? But if you are an ex-Christian and you are like took Christianity seriously and now you're an ex-Christian, if for the first time you get exposed to Mormonism, you'll be like, what the hell is this, right? Like, you feel like it's even more ridiculous than Christianity, even if it isn't. So I think for a lot of us ex-Muslims, these offshoots just feel like that, right? But they are, what most people now recognize them for is like a lot of their anti-Semitic views, right? That's the reason why in the US they get a lot of coverage, right, when it comes to politics, and also because of the support they get from some of the politicians, and also like people like Linda Sarsour, right? And given that Linda Sarsour is supporting a group that is so openly anti-Semitic, and then Bernie Sanders comes that supports Linda Sarsour, people are like, so that's how they get so much coverage, right? Like people's like, oh my God, Bernie Sanders, right, supporting Linda Sarsour. Linda Sarsour supports this anti-Semitic group, and then that's that's how it gets highlighted in the media these days.
It is, and it's a little bit muddled because I don't think my take on it is that I think there's definite racist elements to it, like the anti-Semitism, the things that the stuff about white people, and that they really go overboard on that, especially nowadays. I think it's a very, very outdated kind of thing. In the past, they did have a prominent role in the civil rights movement, so they were involved in the Martin Luther King speech, Million Man March, a lot of those other sort of important things. Malcolm X, I think, was a very important figure as well. So it's a plus minus type thing, but I do agree that right now with Louis Farrakhan is just absolutely. He's really no different than a lot of the right wing white supremacists on the other side.
I could tell you what Muslims don't know what to do with them because, and especially Muslims in Islamic countries, because they kind of want to highlight them, but to show like, look, in the United States, people are becoming Muslim. Like even this is great. Like they want to get the credit for him, but they also don't want to highlight them too much because what they believe in is so crazy that they do not want to support them, right? So they kind of want to highlight them a little bit to show that Islam could grow even in the United States, but they like, yeah. And also like groups like I remember even as a kid, they will tell us like, oh, United States is so mean to black people and black people are becoming Muslim left and right in the United States. Look how like Islam is like a liberation, it's a freedom thing. People realize that they're being oppressed and all that, and they become Muslim, but they never tell us what they actually believe in because it's just not the Islam that they believe in, right? It's like, for example, even small deviations from what they, for a very long time when we were growing up in Iran, nobody ever told us, for example, that Palestinians were Sunni, right? Because the whole in Iran, they have to really take advantage of Israel. Israel oppressing the Palestinian people and Iran being the defender of the Palestinian people. But the fact that they're not Shia was never highlighted to us as kids. So, yeah, anyways.
Yeah. Zain Azhar at 10:02 is asking, how popular are Bollywood movies in Pakistan and Iran? Well, in Pakistan, they're more popular than Pakistani movies. Pretty much everybody watches them. So Pakistan just kind of embraces Bollywood movies as their own. The same celebrities, same everything. So it's a really big thing. And no matter what the situation, the tension has been between Pakistan and India at any time, Bollywood movies have always been available in Pakistan. Sometimes there were times when they didn't show them in the theaters. I think there were times when they did. I can't recall. But just from the video stores and everything like that, people get them all the time. So they're essentially part of the culture in Pakistan. But what about in Iran? Does anybody watch Bollywood in Iran? Iran has a pretty amazing film scene, actually, even now.
Yeah, they used to be more popular in Iran when I was a kid. I don't know what happened. They're not as popular anymore.
Yeah.
I remember my mom used to watch Bollywood movies when I was a kid. But then as an adult, I remember my mom used to be more addicted to Korean drama.
Yeah.
She switched.
So
I don't know. My mom doesn't represent Iran. So all of Iran's, I don't know. So I don't know what happened. Actually, anything I say is what I have no idea actually how popular they were in Iran. I'm just telling you what was popular in my family.
Yeah. Right. So there's a question from Stephanie Seidel, also 10:02. So I'm just going through the 10:02s. This is a two-part question for me from Stephanie Seidel. She's saying, number one, what is your mother tongue, Ali? My mother tongue is Urdu, right? Because I was born and I'm Pakistani, so mother tongue is Urdu. It's the first language I learned how to speak. But now my first language is really English. I'm better at that than I am with Urdu. The second part of the question is, do you know what Malala Yousafzai's mother tongue is? So Malala Yousafzai, I think she speaks Pashto. I mean, she's from the northwestern frontier province, so she probably speaks Pashto, which is a local Pakistani language that's spoken by the Pashtun people.
Pashto is very close to Persian.
It is very close to Pashtun. So that Pashto, Dari, Farsi, Persian are very, very similar languages. So and I think that's what she speaks. But she's brilliant because she speaks Urdu, she speaks Pashto, she speaks English. So she's pretty good at all of it. She's a pretty smart girl. All right, so
do faster questions because we're very behind. Like you're way up there.
Yeah, 10:03. Jim King. I'll do this really quick. So this is also for me. Okay. What do you make of nicotine and its relationship to COVID-19? So this is really interesting. So
can you keep this fast? I find this boring.
What, the smoking?
Fast. Yeah.
Because Armin, you're just an anti-smoking bigot. That's why. Okay,
yes,
so
I am.
Nicotinophobic.
Proud of it.
No. So am I, actually. I'm against nicotine. But what is interesting is with COVID-19, they found that people who were hospitalized were more likely to need ventilation, right? When they looked at all of them, a very small percentage of them actually turned out to be smokers. Most of them were non-smokers. So they were wondering about why the protective effects. Does nicotine have protective effects? So the same thing. The data came out of China first, and then
you have 10 seconds to answer this.
Hold on, Armin. Hey, answering the question.
Oh, you're out of 10 seconds. You're done.
Armin, this is a democratic thing. So this is a topic that's interesting to me. And all
every time I try to make it faster, it just
I have to tell you this. I like
go on. Just go on.
Longer.
Answer.
So nicotine, I was saying, is slower. So it turns out that the data came out of China, then came out of the US, and then also came out of France. So all of them kind of showed the same thing, that a very small minority of these patients who are ventilated with COVID-19 were smokers. Why is that? There are many theories. I think the most popular theory was that the ACE2 protein that the virus targets is not highly expressed in smokers. So that may be one of the reasons, because that's how the virus actually finds its way into the bronchial epithelial cell. So, but who knows? Nobody really knows. We don't even know if this is real.
Just don't smoke, okay? That's all you need to know. Don't smoke. That's all you need to know, okay?
Yeah, unless you are about
to ask that question. I'm going to block that person for asking a boring question.
All right. Oh, Jim King. Armin prefers edibles, remember. Okay, so next question. This was about anything and everything, Armin. That was our promise to the audience.
Okay? Yeah. But we didn't promise we're not going to block them for asking boring questions.
You didn't promise that. Something that you didn't say. Okay, so Muscal, 1004. She's saying, Armin and Ali, what are your happiest memories? Armin, you go first.
Easy, my wedding.
Happiest memory, really?
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Easy.
Yeah, that's really good. So I have to answer this too. Oh God, this is so cliched, but yeah,
mine is cliche too, but it's also
not when my daughter was born, not the moment that she was born. The moment she was born was very transformative, but it didn't really hit me like it hits most people. I was kind of disoriented. But the happiest time was, I think, when she was 4 weeks old. I was changing her diaper, and she smiled at me for the first time consciously, and she was sort of like playing around me. That's when I actually bonded with her, and then I fell in love with her. So I think that moment is one of the happiest memories, probably the happiest memory of my life.
For my wedding, I honestly wasn't, even to this day, I always think like, how did I get this lucky? Like, did this actually really happen? Like, I think like this is probably the best decision I've made in my whole life. Like, if anything else, and no matter how many mistakes I make in my life, I can at least know that when it comes to marrying my wife, this was like, it will basically outshine all my other mistakes. Like, I was like, wow, I really, really got lucky in that area. So
yeah, that's really good to hear. I like that. That's good. Reason on Faith is saying thank you for the happy birthday wishes. Thomas Sheedy has a question that you have up on the screen. It says, good evening, gentlemen. My question is, what do you think atheist organizations in the U.S. are doing that is not grabbing the world's attention anymore? Do we need a new atheism?
No. And I actually think any atheist group can do whatever the hell they want, whatever they're passionate about, whatever they want to focus on. I mean, they can do that. They don't need to be like, oh, this is what is needed, you guys should do this. Well, they might not want to do that. Like, I don't think like there's no right way to do atheism. Atheism is nothing other than lack of belief in God. I think atheist groups could stand for different things other than a lack of belief in God, but that doesn't mean that's the right way to do atheism. That just means that's the right way to do what they want to do as a group, right? Like, for example, Atheist Republic doesn't stand for atheism. It doesn't represent atheism. Atheist Republic represents Atheist Republic, right? And Atheist Republic, like, for example, if some people's like, oh, you guys are great, you guys don't shy away from Islam, unlike some other atheist groups, yeah, we don't shy away from Islam, but we don't think you have to focus on Islam. Your group can do whatever your group want to do, and if people don't like what your group does, they can switch to another group that they like, right? I don't think there's a right way. I think the right way to do your activism is to focus on things that you're passionate about.
Yeah, I have something to say, because I remember, Thomas, I think we met in New York when you were there for I think it was the XMNA or the Muslimish conference or something, or maybe somewhere else. But I think a really important aspect of this is that the atheist organizations are getting a little too swayed by politics. They're getting swayed too much by the wokeness aspect of things. They're getting a little bit too self-conscious about not being associated with this group or that group, not being labeled this or that, and that's a problem. Because, for instance, when there's a lot of talk about how there's this issue, there's the sexism issue in it, there's homophobia, there's transphobia, there are all of these things that they're focusing on, all these culture wars and these political issues. And I think they need to sort of, not that those things aren't important, but they need to zoom out and really focus on the central theme again. Because the more they do that, then they end up marginalizing. For instance, one of the important things is atheist organizations in the US, especially, are not very welcoming to ex-Muslims. I'm sorry, but you have lapsed Catholics, you have secular Jews, you've got all of these other people coming in.
That's fine. They could just come to Atheist Republic, where we are. Actually, maybe I'm being biased because it would be more fan base for Atheist Republic.
So maybe there you go. That's the answer. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Is when Thomas is asking, what are they doing that is not grabbing the attention? Well, look at what Atheist Republic is doing. Like, take a look at that. But I think what
I'm saying is that maybe
Armin, let me finish what I'm saying about the thing, because this is important. They tend to have these conferences. They usually sometimes they'll have sort of one acceptable ex-Muslim who is somehow palatable to them, but they just don't want to go into it. They don't want to be called Islamophobic. I was amazed when atheists, it was the American Atheists, had that tweet that talked about that Sam Harris and these guys, being Islamophobia. They use the word Islamophobia. What is that? Do they ever write?
That's great because then people will quit them and then join Atheist Republic, where it's so welcoming to ex-Muslims and highlights ex-Muslims.
We're not talking about what Atheist Republic is doing right, which is everything. We're talking about what they're doing wrong.
I'm kidding. They don't
talk about Christophobia or anything like that. They just talk about Islam, and that's a problem. That's a problem, right? Atheism isn't just American-centric. It's not just about cultural wars and wokeism. It's about skepticism. You're supposed to look at things critically. They shouldn't be swayed by that. They need to zoom out.
No, okay, but we shouldn't say. I mean, I'm actually doing that myself, which is hypocritical. I was gonna say we shouldn't say they shouldn't, because there's no should. They could be like, you know what? I don't want to deal with this headache. I'm gonna. I gotta explain something to you. Like when you say sometimes. When I interrupt Ali, Ali says, like, you gotta let me finish. Then he comes and interrupts me, and that's okay.
I'm talking about technical accuracy over here, and there's this sort of fetish for it. So, when you have sleepovers when you're a kid, and then there's that, I think John Blaney talked about this, when you have a little kid who comes in and you're saying, oh my God, we're going to be up until 2 a.m. tonight. And then there's that one guy who says, well, technically it won't be 2 a.m. tonight. It'll be 2 a.m. tomorrow, because it's the next day after midnight. And everyone just looks at him, and they're like, yeah, we know, but this is just how we talk. That's the thing. When you say they should or should not, like, I'm not saying.
All right, I know what you mean, but let me make my point. And what I'm saying is that a lot of organizations, this is not being nitpicky, okay? I'm saying if your organization doesn't want to deal with, you want to go on the politically correct route and not, rock any boats. Is that the saying? I don't know if that's the saying.
Yeah, rock any boat. That's correct. Yeah. They don't say that around.
Yeah, do that. It's fine. We'll rock the boat on your, and we'll just, Here's what I'm saying, okay? If you want something different, make something different, okay? Like, a lot of people like, oh, this organization should do this organization should do that. Why are they not doing that? Well, if they're not doing what you want, you do what's missing. right? That's what I did. Okay. I made what's missing instead of like big going out like, why are you guys not doing what I want? Right? That's my philosophy, I think. Like, you can sit down and be like, oh, these organizations are not doing the things that I want. Well, make your own.
I know, but we're in a situation where someone comes and asks you, like if an atheist organization says, okay, what do you think we're not doing right now that we should be? Then, you can give your opinion, but you're right. Absolutely.
They're not even asking that.
Thomas Sheedy, I've met Thomas. I met him a few years ago. I meet loads and loads and loads of people. He was very young and he was brilliant, and he was actually really precocious, very forward-looking, very sort of, he had full of ideas. I think Thomas, I think you should actually. I think you have very good leadership qualities. It would be amazing if you started an organization.
He did. I think he already did. He did.
Get in touch with me, and then let's. Yeah, he's saying that he wants to talk, so let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. So Ronnie XD, 10:06 p.m. He's saying, Armin, are you being sectist against other ex-Muslims?
It's a joke.
Aren't you seeing this? Aren't you seeing what's happening over here?
Right. No, but I think the comment is also a joke, by the way. But yeah, I am being. The only true ex-Muslims are ex-Shias. No, just to be actually my definition. It's very interesting because a lot of people think I'm actually very I'm narrow when it comes to my definition of Muslim and my definition of Islam, which are two separate things. But actually, my definition of Islam and Muslim is very, very, my umbrella is very big, right? And it's funny to me that
yours.
No, but it's like it's a very inclusive definition. My definition of Muslim and Islam is the belief that there's Allah is God, Muhammad is his prophet, and to be more inclusive, I didn't even say last prophet. I said it's his prophet, and the Quran is the direct word of God. That is a very, very inclusive definition that includes a lot of fringe groups that many Muslims don't even recognize as Islam. So, yeah, but you guys know that I'm joking when I say that, right?
Yeah.
By the way, I like that I have control over what live chat that we get to highlight, because I always highlight anybody that compliments me or says that I made a good point. I'm always going to highlight that one. But I'm not going to highlight the people that say Ali is making a good point.
Armin is playing. He's putting on a tough guy front. Inside, he's like a little puppy because he's already highlighted several comments that talked about how they agreed with me. So, Armin, I still love you. Doesn't matter.
I love you
too. So Josh Sherwood at 10:08. This is like a recent development. What do you think about Representative Justin Amash running for president as a Libertarian candidate? Although I may not always agree with him, we need to break out of the two-party system in the USA. I think this is like a Ralph Nader type situation. So, but it's not clear who he's going to take votes away from. So he is for those who don't know, he's a Republican. Used to be a Republican. A member of the House of Representatives in the U.S. He has a Syrian refugee mother and a Palestinian refugee father. And he came out, he left the Republican Party because he couldn't deal with Trump. And now he's announced his own candidacy for president under the Libertarian Party thing. But then he could take some Republicans off of the Trump side, and he could also take some sort of conservative Democrats off the Biden side who are not happy with Biden. So I don't. Are
you ignoring Beej? Beej is saying you're ignoring her comments.
I didn't. We had Beej's comment about the Mubarak Bala. Yeah, we're being selective. We're just going kind of through the.
Don't ignore Beej. Beej is very important to us.
We are not. Beej had the comment about Mubarak Bala, and we already talked about that.
Okay.
Right. So I don't know. I'm doing this, and I'm being sort of selective in terms of questions as well. Right. So I'm going with, there are many comments, but there are some questions. So yeah, that's what I think about Justin Amash. It's a little too hard to say right now where he's going to siphon the votes off of, but I think it's going to be a Ralph Nader 2000 kind of situation, or who was that guy? The "Where is Aleppo" guy. The guy who said "Where is Aleppo"? Remember? What was his name? Shit, I can't remember his name. No, whatever. So next question.
Optimus Prime.
You take this. 10:08.
10:08. Okay, the comments are at 10:39, so I'm not going to scroll all the way up to highlight that.
Yeah. Okay.
But you have to read a little bit faster because we're at 10:39 and you're already stuck at 10:08.
Yeah, so this is a question for you. What will happen in Iran after the pandemic? You have 10 seconds, Armin. Answer in 10 seconds.
I'll answer in 2 seconds. No one knows. No one knows. Okay, that's how. And anybody that tells you that this is what will happen, stop trusting them unless they come up with a disclaimer that says, I'm not very certain about this position. This is just a guess. There are too many external factors to make an accurate prediction. I'm just guessing for the sake of guessing based on these factors, and my prediction could be absolutely wrong. Unless they come up with a disclaimer, something like that. If anybody tells you that this is what's going to happen, then you shouldn't trust those kind of people, because even if they end up being right, you shouldn't trust them, because there's a chance that they could end up being right. But that doesn't mean that they made the Can I tell you about an experiment very fast, or no? We don't have a time.
Well, I mean, you're already well beyond 2 seconds, so go for it. Well,
my answer was
I'm just pointing out. I'm just saying.
Okay, let me tell you a fast experiment. Okay, let's say that you have a company and you want to con a lot of people, and what you do is you look at sports, right? And there's 2 teams playing, and you take a whole city, and half of the zip codes, you tell them that our prediction is that team A will win, and the other half we tell them that team B will win. Okay, and then if let's say team A wins, so you ignore all the people that you predicted team B will win. You go to all the zip codes in the city that you told them that team A will win, and the next game you predict now team A will win or B will win, and then the ones that you predicted right, now you focus on them, you ignore. You keep doing that until you have a smaller group of houses that you mailed and you predicted 10 games correctly, right? And these people that got your mail think my God, how did they look? Their predictions was right. 10 games they predicted right. And now you're not going to tell them which team will win. You tell them that if you pay us money and we will tell you which team will win next, and you could bet on the team and make a lot of money. You will just pay us a little bit, but you could make millions by betting on the right team, because you see that we were accurate 10 times before the game. And then you could con people like that out of their money. But don't do this, by the way. But what I'm saying is that just statistically, some people are going to end up being right even if they pick randomly. Statistically, some people are going to be right even if they pick randomly. So just because somebody comes up with a prediction and they end up being right, even statistically, some people are going to be right 8 times in a row or 10 times in a row, even if they pick randomly. Okay, that doesn't mean they made their predictive model works, right? You have to figure out if a predictive model works or not. You need a control group and all that. That's what's called science. But again, don't trust people that make such predictions on things that have so many external factors influencing them, unless it comes with a disclaimer. Don't trust them, even if they end up being right.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So you have a question up on screen. So we'll do this. I'll do one of the earlier ones because we don't want to skip those. And then you can do some of the later ones that you put on screen. So Mars is asking, how do you guys see this quarantine ending? The left/right narratives are inflamed. How do you see this ending with views on Trump, UBI, social safety nets, etc.? I think that it's going to change a lot of things. Armin and I were just talking about this before we went on. Is that there are going to be many things that will be different from here onwards. More people will get comfortable with working from home. They're going to find out that it is more productive. It saves commute time. They're going to get comfortable with these technologies. They're going to get comfortable with online classes, distance learning. So a lot of these things will change. There's going to be more innovation. For instance, now you couldn't get masks, you couldn't get anything like that. Maybe 3D printing will become a big issue here. You need something, you print out a lot of masks. You print out. There's so many, manufacturing is going to change. So a lot of the ways that we think about things is going to change, because now we know we can get away with it. As far as the quarantine ending, it's not going to happen unless you have a lot of testing. Doesn't mean you have to test the entire population of every country, but you need representative samples. You can test around 20,000 people and get a good idea of how many are positive, how many are negative, and get a good idea of the rest of the population based on that, and then calculate the mortality rate based on that, and then go ahead and come in. But you're going to need testing. You're going to eventually need a vaccine, and you're going to need some sort of treatment that's effective. It's kind of getting there, actually. I think it's kind of getting there in a lot of places.
Again, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I hope Ali is right. I hope a lot of waste is going to get cut from people realizing that they didn't need offices, that they could do online education, that they could shut down a lot of the schools and do like, I don't know, like I'm hoping that a lot of excess, funding and a lot of stuff that is not needed, a lot of companies, a lot of education facilities realize like, wow, we could have done this a lot cheaper for a very long time, and we didn't. I hope that's the lesson that they take out of it.
I do hope that when it comes to schools, I think it is important. I'm not a huge fan.
We already debated this.
The homeschooling thing?
Yeah, I think it's better to close and universities and schools and do mostly online, unless it's something very technical, like unless it's engineering and something medical, or stuff like that. And any argument that you could have that, oh, actually there's somewhat of a more benefit if people actually walk to school, like go to school, sit and see each other face to face in classes. The amount of money that you save from doing it the way I'm saying we should do it is going to mean way more people can get educated. So it's going to outweigh whatever extra benefits that you come up with. Like if I could, like this one kid will benefit more if he or she sees other kids sitting next to them, or there's like the teachers is like interacting with them face to face. Like, yeah, but I could replace that one kid with 5 kids of being educated if you do my model.
Yeah, I don't. So yeah, the part of it, I don't agree with it. I think the most important thing you learned in school isn't necessarily the topics and everything, the subjects you're learning, but it is how to form social relationships with people who you have to get along with, but you're also competing with. And I think that's a very important life skill.
Most of my friends I engage with them through live stream, so you can have social engagement with people through live streams and stuff like that.
You can, but it's not.
And actually, the most important thing to learn, in my opinion, is to learn how to learn. Okay, because what's going to happen in the near future is, again, this is prediction, so it could be disclaimer. Imagine all the disclaimers in the world. I just said that, okay, but what might happen in the future is that things are going to change so much that it's not about what you know, because the things that you know might be useful today and not useful tomorrow. It's the ability to learn. So you need to kids need to learn how to learn new skills very fast in a changing environment.
But you said
that's more important than even social skills.
Yeah, but you said that this was in your opinion. I'm telling you about studies, and I'm telling you about actual facts in terms of education. So this is that is one of the most important things you learn. It's a key measure of life happiness. It's a key measure of employment. It's a key measure of not being incarcerated, is how you get along with your peers in person, how you interact with them, while also being competitive with them for resources like jobs and everything else.
You could learn that, a lot of the projects and, learning how to be social and how to make friends is also something you could do online. In fact, a lot of conversations, a lot of friendships are made online these days. So
I know.
In fact, more than offline, actually. More conversations are happening online than offline.
But
so
you got to read.
You
got to read the studies on this. I'm talking about large groups of people getting together and learning together. But anyway,
I'm not dismissing that. I'm saying social skills are important. You can learn social skills. You could learn it even better online, because you meet a more diverse group of people. You could meet like somebody from Japan, and then somebody from Nigeria, and then somebody from France, and they're like, oh my god, I'm engaging with a more diverse group of people.
it's good to have that, but it's what you need that's really, really fundamental is the first one, the thing I'm saying, and I'm right. Anyway, Karen is asking you a question on screen. What do you think of the UFO photos released by the Pentagon recently? I haven't seen them. I haven't seen them.
Yeah, I mean, they're man-made. That's my, I think that UFOs are human-made. That's the most likely scenario.
Why did they release? What was
these are not new photos? They're just released by Pentagons, which makes it official. Like they were leaked before, but nobody can, like, people cannot know, like, are they real? Are they fake? But when Pentagon releases the same videos that were leaked before, people are like, okay, now this is official. We know that this is real.
But why did they do it? Why did the Pentagon? What was the reason for it?
They declassify stuff all the time.
So why specific? Okay, well, anyway, it's interesting.
They have. I think I'm not sure. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. They have a date, like everything that is secret in the U.S. government. They have an expiry date on it for the sake of the public. At some point, like for example, I think it was last year. I don't know how. Was it last year? The whole the coup. A lot of information about the Mossadegh coup in Iran was released. A lot of the documents were released because in the United States you cannot keep something classified forever unless the president comes and says, I don't know how, but you could actually sometimes, if it's against the national safe security, you could actually make it classified longer. But unless you have an excuse, then after a certain date you have to declassify some information.
And Karen also had another question. She said, what's your favorite song to sing at karaoke? For me, Karen, you know that we went karaokeing together when you were here in Toronto, and I love singing "Don't Stop Me Now" by Queen. So it's challenging and it's fun. It's a beautiful melody. So I'm going to ask another.
What was the question?
Oh, it was specific. It was about what's your favorite song to sing at karaoke. So I want to bring Ronnie is asking a 1010. This is early. You don't have to put that on the screen. He's saying he wrote Imran Khan. It's actually Irfan Khan died yesterday. He's getting shit from both Hindus for being a Muslim and Muslims for not being good Muslim. What do you think of him? I think he is one of the greatest actors and one of my favorite actors in the modern age. And I was devastated that he died. He was brilliant in The Namesake. He was also in Life of Pi. He was the older version of the kid. And he was in The Lunchbox. He was in a lot of like really, really amazing movies. So it's a very tragic loss. The guy has a great legacy. If you want to look him up, you should. And you should check out his movies. Armin, you have a question?
No.
Oh, you don't?
Go to the next one. Yeah, because we did too much of my highlighted ones. Go to the next one from above. Optimus Prime is reminding us that Optimus Prime, maybe post your question again because he keeps telling us.
Yeah. So 1012 from Muscal, she's saying, what are the best things to come out of this pandemic? What are the best things to come out of this pandemic? We kind of covered that a little bit.
Yeah, we don't know yet, but I think a lot of excess waste is going to get cut. I think. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure about this, but that's what I think is going to happen. Oh no, I know. Okay, this is something I'm actually more sure about. I think this virus might have saved us. Okay, this virus actually. Why didn't I go to that one right away? This virus might have made a lot of countries realize that they're not ready to deal with the pandemic. And if this virus was just a little bit like worse, just like one characteristic about the virus was a little bit worse than right now, right? It could have like completely destroyed our planet, right? And it's really bizarre to me that we're not ready at all for something like that. Okay? Like this is something that could just wipe us out. Like the entire economy and everything just collapse. Like a whole civilization could just fall on itself. And there's not that much for like, we don't have like factories everywhere, like research labs and factories everywhere constantly trying to come up with like be ready for vaccine, experiments and stuff like that. Like Bill Gates was suggesting, right? So it's very bizarre that we're not prepared for something that could just so easily destroy us. We might have been lucky for COVID-19 to be problematic in a way to wake up the whole world, but not so problematic that will just end civilization as a whole, so that we wake up that, it kind of could be acting like a vaccine, but not a biological vaccine, but like a social vaccine to a lot of countries for them to now, you know how in the same way that the vaccine works, it wakes up your body like, oh my God, this is a threat. Let's create antibodies and all that stuff to be ready for the real disease. It might actually this virus might have woken up a lot of countries to now be ready for another thing like this. And if something worse than COVID-19 comes and hits us, we might be more ready to deal with that because of COVID-19. So it is possible that COVID-19 might have saved us from something worse than COVID-19. Maybe. I'm not sure. What do you think about that? Do you think that's possible?
I don't know. I mean, all of this stuff is speculative. I feel like I think we're going to see. But I do agree with the part about, that you sort of realize, a lot of people realize how unprepared they were for this. And if there was anything worse, right? Like any virus with a higher mortality rate that was more deadly, that was more contagious, then this could have been way, way worse than it is right now. So I think there's definitely a learning curve. I also think personally, and I think this is a huge service to all mankind, is that this really has shown a lot of people that how horrible Trump is as a leader. Like absolutely horrible, the way that he handled all of this stuff. It also, I mean, it did show that China is authoritarian, and
I was China more than even Trump. The fact that
I know, but the thing is that China is authoritarian. That's by definition what they are. Taiwan didn't fall for what China said. South Korea didn't fall for what China said. And when Obama was president, like he didn't fall for stuff that China's saying, this is what they're reporting, we're just going to trust them. No, he didn't. Like he had people on the ground. He had a pandemic response team with up to 50 people in China, which Trump disbanded in 2018. Trump was completely, this is what China's reporting. It's going to be fine. Everything's good. He fell for it. China played him. They played him. The president of the U.S. was played by these people. We found out that there's some, even though the WHO is an incredible organization, we found out that they do have some bias towards in favor of China, which is a problem. And I think that hopefully there's going to be some accountability for that. And that's going to make the WHO a more sort of accountable organization. And that's going to help future pandemics. But it has exposed a lot of these sort of holes and these problems that we do need to work on.
I agree with you on Trump, but I do think that relatively what China did should result in more outrage than anything else.
That's true, but the thing is that Trump is the head of a democratic country that should not be doing that, right? I mean, China is an authoritarian state, so it's something you can expect, but you have to hold your own person to. You have a whole system that you developed over hundreds of years so that your president, your leader, would not make the mistakes that all these sort of authoritarian countries do. And there is a different standard. You have to hold them to, you have to judge them by their own standards. And by that, it was a much more colossal failure. That's the problem.
Okay, read the comment on the screen. Because Duncan is saying, okay.
For Armin, your book is entitled "There Is No God." Nowhere in the book is there a cogent defense that God does not exist, other than saying you don't have any reason for God.
So you didn't. First of all, it's not called "There Is No God." It says the book is "Why There Is No God." So get the title right. But did you read the introduction to the book? Because I addressed it. I knew people are going to have a problem with this, so I specifically addressed this in the introduction. Did you just go to chapter 1, or did you read the intro, Duncan? Should I go over this? Or because
go through it really quickly, because they've read your book and you don't want to leave too much.
Just really quickly, I'm gonna just say, like, there's a lot of things that we treat as non-existent, even because there's no reasons for their existence, even though you cannot prove that they don't exist, because you treat them as if they don't exist, right? And I think it's bizarre that we treat God any differently, right? So philosophically, if you want to be accurate, you don't say why there is no God. You philosophically, first of all, it's very interesting that they just look at the title, right? And they're like, oh my God, the book doesn't represent the title. Like you could say that about Hitchens' book as well. God is not great. Okay, so God is not great. Do you think Hitchin actually believes in God, that there is a God that is not great, right? Obviously not. But when I say why there is no God, is like, for example, you treat this. The example I give is in the book. I specifically address this in the book. I don't understand, Duncan, how you say this. I specifically mentioned, for example, there is no way for me to prove 100% that my wife is not a spy hired by China to assassinate me. I cannot prove that this is not the case. Okay? In fact, the chances of that being true is more than the existence of God, because for that to be true, the natural laws of the universe don't have to like change or anything like that, right? But if you come and ask me, Armin, do you think your wife is a spy hired to assassinate you by China? I'm not going to be like, the answer is not going to be, well, I can't be sure because there's no way for me to prove that my wife is not a spy, but there's no evidence that my wife is not a spy. So the likelihood of that being true is very low. So I'm going to treat it as if my wife is not a spy. I'm not going to answer you like that. I'm going to be like, no, what the hell are you talking about? I'm going to be like, are you stupid? Right? So with many other things, the things that have zero evidence, and the likelihood of because they have zero evidence, we treat their likelihood of their existence close to zero. We treat them like as if they don't exist. Nobody has a problem with that. When you ask me if there's Santa Claus, I'm not going to give you a sent paragraph. I'm going to be like, no. When you ask me if the werewolves are real, I'm going to be like, no. I'm not going to give you a paragraph. So all of a sudden, when it comes to God, it's in the same boat as all of the other things. But I'm not. But for God, we're so sensitive about it that it apparently requires us to come up with an answer. Yeah, so technically you're right. Technically, I'm not going to, if you want to be accurate, you're going to be like, okay, fine. Like, yeah, I can't prove the non-existence of God if you have a deistic definition of a God. But given that there's no evidence for it, is the likelihood of it being real is as close to an infinite number of things that I could come up with without evidence. But that would be treating God differently that we treat everything else like that. So I'm not going to do that because God is as ridiculous as all those other claims. I'm going to be like, no, there's no God. Yeah. I'm going to treat them the same as. And I mentioned this in the intro, right?
Yeah. The take-home message for this is Armin's wife is a spy because there's no evidence that she.
And actually, it's very interesting because the subtitle clarifies what the book is. It just so if you think like you're being duped, the subtitle of the book clarifies what the book is about. So. You haven't been duped.
Genetically Modified Skeptic has a really good question.
Where is that?
It's oh man, I can't find it on StreamYard, but it's on YouTube. But anyway, I'll just read it out. You find the next one. So do you think the production of hard science fiction is a better way to promote science literacy than more direct science communication? Narrative may be the most powerful teaching tool we have. Absolutely. I think, and we've talked about this a lot. I think there are a lot of ideas that get through much better when they're told as stories. The biggest example of this, Drew, is religion itself. The Bible, the Quran, like all these, they're full of stories. And you can package any kind of idea in a story and you can put it out there. I mean, 1984 and Animal Farm were way more effective than any sort of nonfiction op-eds you could do. For gay rights, Will and Grace and Ellen and Philadelphia, the movie Philadelphia, were way more influential than all of the articles and the books that were written about that, because what you process nonfiction sort of intellectually, right, cerebrally, but you process stories emotionally. It's something that you personally connect with. So, and that is actually another thing that I think, especially with the atheism community and the secular community, we do put a lot of emphasis on the nonfiction. And I would love to see more novels, more sort of fiction, science fiction, as you're saying, more art, poetry, stand-up comedy, Netflix series, all of those kinds of things really come into play to get this message home, because that is a it is a much better way, I think, a much more effective way for people to receive it, to receive those messages. I think Armin agrees with me on this. So
yeah, that's why for my next book, I'm actually gonna use the power of stories, and that's why also when it comes to Atheist Republic, we created the voicemails, Atheist Republic voicemails, for example, where people just tell their stories to emotionally reach to people. Yeah. But how do you do that with science, though?
With science, well, people have done it with science. People have done it with science. I mean, there's amazing science fiction is I think you do that with Star Trek. A lot of people I know, if you go, like, the people that I was in grad school with for molecular biology, they were all Star Trek junkies. They were very, very interested in a lot of fiction. That's how they got interested in these things. So when you read stories like that, it gets you into it. You know,
it always helps if you start with a story and then make a point. Yeah, but yeah, okay.
So you do need a combination of things, of course. You need both.
Actually, Drew does that with his channel sometimes. Like sometimes
it's so amazing.
Yeah, he's like starts with like, let me tell like something about him and his, an experience he had, and then he goes to make a point. I've seen him do that. Yeah. So yeah.
And I actually have to tell you, this is not very intuitive to a lot of people in the secular atheist community, because I know that I don't, and I think myself, if you ask me, I'm like, well, rationality and ideas and good arguments are what works on me most, right? And I would believe that. It took me a very long time to realize that that's not really the case. First of all, other people don't work that way. Most other people don't work that way. And I also found out, I admit, I don't work that way either. If you take the same sort of, I like Richard Dawkins's writing. I love his writing, because when he writes like something like Unweaving the Rainbow, there is storytelling. He's a fantastic storyteller. He's not just a writer of nonfiction. He uses stories, he uses examples to illustrate literally illustrate his ideas, so you can see them in your head, and you can see it in your mind what he's saying. And he filled
Ali, take the next question. I need to go pee. Be right back.
You need to what? You didn't do the pre? Okay.
I did.
I believe you. It's okay. Are you sure you can leave this to me? All right. So the next question is, well, I have one here from Beej. Beej is saying, I'm still confused on the Arabic greeting that peace be upon you. I've heard that isn't to be said to non-Muslims. Is that just some sects who think that? What to say back to it? Well, assalamu alaikum just basically means peace be upon you. I don't know. I think that there are probably some ultra-conservative sects like the Salafis and the Wahhabis who say that this shouldn't be done to non-Muslims. They think of non-Muslims as very different. They tend to like to keep themselves segregated, so they won't say it, but it really doesn't mean anything different from peace be upon you, from shalom. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh is basically, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you. That may be more sort of like Islamic centric. But yeah, I don't think I have much else to say on that. And Armin,
I'm back
from peeing. Okay, great, Armin. Thank you. How was it? Tell us about it.
It was very fun. It was very good. Yeah, I drink a lot of water, by the way. That's a health advice for you there. That's why.
Okay.
I drink like a lot of water.
My prediction is Armin's going to be a little bit more relaxed now.
Yes.
I think. Yeah, you think so, right? It makes a big difference, I'm telling you. So let's see. Do you have another question, Armin, or I'll actually go with another one? There's a couple of questions here about Kemal Atatürk, right? The Turkish.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I guess we could talk about that. That's kind of interesting too. I think. Let me get the exact question. Yes, Elif. Elif is asking Alif. Question for Ali. Okay, well, I think both of us can answer this. What do you think about Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, the founder of the Turkish Republic?
So, well, I think the same thing I think about Reza Shah from Iran. I think they're both kind of like forced secularism when they're people just because they were obsessed with the West, they're wanting to westernize their countries, and I think it backfired faster on Reza Shah than it did on Atatürk. I mean, Atatürk had some good ideas. So here's the problem with I mean, Ataturk did a lot of good things, but again, the whole idea of forcing secularism on people it doesn't work. You have to, they looked at what happened with Western European countries after the Enlightenment movement, both Reza Shah and Ataturk, and they looked like, oh, just look at all the progress they're making. We need some of that here, right? But was different between what they were trying to do and what happened in Western Europe is in Western Europe, the ideas grow among the people, and then the politics had to change to reflect that. But what Reza Shah and Ataturk was trying to do, they were trying to change the politics and force those ideas on people. And that doesn't work unless you change the idea, or you change the way people think about it. Europe was more of a bottom-up approach. What Reza Shah and Ataturk were doing was a top-down approach, right? And I mean, to give credit to them a little bit, is that they also focus on education, especially education of women. So that is a little bit of a lot of the bottom up approach. But many other strategies that they had was just, this is my, was undemocratic. They were both authoritarian. This is my way. This is how things need to get done. And usually that backfires. And you can see in the case of Reza Shah, it backfired huge. And it became, Islam was never, like, if you were living during Reza Shah and Muhammad Reza Shah's time, you would have been surprised to think Islam would have such a major comeback in your country, in Iran at that time, right? Like, we went from Reza Shah at the time, during Reza Shah, for example, hijab in public became illegal, right? So think about how significant of a change was. That within one generation, you went from the only country in the world where hijab in public was illegal, to becoming now the only country in the world where hijab is mandatory for everybody, including foreigner and non-Muslims. There's no other country than Iran, right? And that was Reza Shah was responsible for that. He basically pushed back against Islam by force instead of by education. And it just came back like and Islam feeds on victimization. I think in Turkey we now see the reaction wasn't as fast as in Iran, but now Turkey is becoming more and more Islamized as well. And you could argue maybe that's not in response to Ataturk, but I would say it's partly the whole idea of secularism got a major PR problem because of Ataturk among a lot of Muslims, right? We don't it's harder to sell secularism. I mean, technically that's not secularism, right? Because secularism is about letting everybody, including non-believers, practice their religion. And when you force something, when you force secularism on people, based on our definition of secularism, that seems like a contradiction. How could you force secularism? Secularism is about lack of force, not about forcing something.
Yeah.
But given that what Ataturk was doing was seen as secularism by a lot of Muslims, I think he made our job at selling secularism a lot more difficult in a lot of Islamic countries.
Yeah. So I have two. I agree with pretty much everything Armin said. I have two things to add to that. I think overall, there are two negative things about what Kemal Ataturk did. One is what Armin is saying about this is the secularism PR problem. Now, this is not just a Turkey issue. This is an issue throughout the Muslim world. Okay, throughout the Muslim world, in the sense that, when in the West you think of secularism, you associate it with democracy and liberalism and so on. When you think of secularism there, you think of Ataturk, you think of people like the Shah of Iran. You think of a lot of the Arab dictators. A lot of dictators in Arab countries were secular because that was they couldn't let the religious aspect was a threat to them, so they had to keep it down. So secularism is considered, there's an association over there that it's oppressive. It's oppressive
Right.
from the top down, which is why in Iran you saw the Islamic Revolution as a rebellion. In Syria, you saw Islamic groups rebelling against it. In Egypt, you saw with Hosni Mubarak, when they brought him down, who came up in his place? A Muslim Brotherhood got elected, right? So there was these. So this was an issue happening. The one place where it was a more sane transition was in Tunisia. But aside from that, pretty much everywhere, Libya, Iraq, Syria, Iran, Turkey, the response. Well, Turkey more long term. Let's leave that out. But all these other places with the Arab Spring, the opposition was a religious opposition. This is the problem with enforcing secularism. Also, the only place that actually had secularism or atheism as a state religion, I'm not kidding, as a state religion officially, was Albania, which is over 90% Muslim in history. They don't have it now anymore, but it's the only country that actually had it at one point. So the Muslim world has generally a negative association
China,
with
no.
secularism. Well, we're talking about the Muslim majority countries.
Okay. So can you read Optimus Prime's question, because he's been posting it a whole bunch of times, and we have been not addressed.
Can I say? I want to say one last thing about Ataturk. This is an example for it's a lesson for the world today too. That what Ataturk did was he changed the script of Turkish from Arabic to local. He changed the adhan, the prayer call, from Arabic to local. Yeah,
not to local, to Latin, to
basically not. But he essentially traded in religious fanaticism for in nationalism, right? Which is sort of one dogma replaced by the other. That's another problem with authoritarian secularism. Anyway, Optimus Prime is saying, what do you guys think of Muslims' claim of Pharaoh's body? So Pharaoh would be the pharaoh of his body.
I think the way Optimus Prime is saying Pharaoh, I think he's from an Islamic country. The way he's saying Pharaoh.
Yeah, but does he really mean pharaoh? Am I doing that right?
But that's how we say Pharaoh. What people call Pharaoh, we call Pharaoh. So I think he must be like, because in the Quran it mentions Pharaoh with an N at the end, right? So I think he must be Are you an ex-Muslim, Optimus Prime? The Quran. Oh yeah, see, he mentioned in the Quran.
I don't know
was found near. Yeah, I mean, okay. So people are saying, Muslims are saying Pharaoh's body was found. I mean, come on. We know that. How many of these things have you heard? Like, I've seen. I mean, I don't take them seriously anymore. Like, how many times Noah's, ship was found? How many times in so many different places, right? How many times, Dajjal was found, right? Have you heard that? Like, people saw Dajjal. How many? I mean, Christians do that as well. The number of nails of the cross they have found. You can there's no way the cross had that many nails. But how many times Christians have claimed that they found the spear,
the shroud, right? The Jesus shroud also.
Yeah, but I mean, we don't take them seriously. These are just claims people make.
Yeah. Ronnie is asking, let me ask the most important question, which you both need to answer: cats versus dogs.
To pet or to own?
I don't know. It's a general question, Armin. Interpret it the way that you.
Okay, so when it comes to pets in general, I rather.
This is supposed to be a lightning round, quick question. So.
Okay,
how the tables turn.
You go first. I have to think about this. This is a very important question. I'm not going to.
I'm not a fan. I'm generally personally not a fan of pet ownership. The reason is that I'm allergic.
See, you're not treating it as the way, like, you have to pick one, because I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say I rather, pet other people's pets, because they do all the work. I just enjoy them, and then I don't have to feed them or pick up their poop or anything. I just rather have friends that have pets rather than have my own pets, right?
For low maintenance, it would be cats. If I wanted companionship, then it would be a dog.
That's a good answer. Low maintenance cats.
The cats don't. You don't have to worry about.
I just think cats are so selfish. They don't give a shit about. Like, if I have a cat, every time I look at them, or her or whatever, I'm gonna be like, "You motherfucker! You don't even care if I die, do you?" Right? And I'm gonna get pissed off every time. Like, I feed you, I take care of you. You're not gonna lose sleep if I die tomorrow.
So
as long as somebody else starts feeding you. But cats look very cute, but they don't give a shit about you. Dogs give a shit about you.
Yeah. So P is saying good morning. Well, this is good morning for them. They're saying, just wondering if any or both of you had planned to attend the Court 2020 event in Vancouver. Yes, we did. Right? Yes, we did. And unfortunately, it's not happening. I know that Yasmin Mohammed was supposed to speak there too. I was going to attend it. I don't know, Armin, if you were, but I
What?
was, sure.
What
The
is which-
CORT's the religious trauma. It's a conference on religious trauma, I think.
No, I don't know
So-
about that. You should tell me about these things.
You did. I did. We did 2 episodes. Well, I actually no, I did those solo episodes.
Oh.
But anyway, so let's move on. You have a question, Armin? Throw it on.
I picked one without reading.
Okay, read it or put it on the screen.
It's on. Read it. You read it.
Oh,
you guys
okay.
want to comment
Jeremy
on the
Frank.
latest? Right.
Oh, you want me to read it?
You
Okay,
go
I'll
ahead.
read it. Did you guys want to comment on the latest round of Western politicians virtue signaling to Muslims about Ramadan?
Oh yeah, I saw them putting on the hijab, and that was so stupid. It was so ridiculous.
Yeah,
Did you see that? That was funny. Yeah,
I did.
I mean,
that's the one time that cultural appropriation doesn't become a thing. This is generally when you anything else you do, you take a white person and they start belly dancing, right? And then cultural appropriation is a big thing. You take a white person who goes to a wedding wearing a sari, and they get slammed like, my religion is not, my culture is not a costume. Take it off. The moment you put on a hijab, or you convert to Islam, or you learn Arabic, and you're white, everyone welcomes it with open arms. That's an issue. That said, they're politicians. They got to cater to people, and
no,
that's what it is. Democracy is a game of lies. Okay, you have to please almost all the people all of the time, and you can't do that without lying. Like
next time, I think that next time they want to come and cater to black people, they should come and put on chains and pick some cottons as well. Be like, oh, I'm speaking to my black voters, and happy Black History Month. See how that goes, right? Like, what the hell? Like, I mean, it's a symbol of slavery. Hijab is a symbol of slavery. I mean, what about all those hundreds of thousands of Muslim women who don't wear the hijab? Do they get offended when they see, like, oh, I'm going to speak to Muslims, I'm going to put a hijab on? And we're like, bitch, I'm a Muslim, I don't put a hijab on. Shut the fuck up.
But they don't. That's the thing. They don't. Like, so even the believing Muslims, that's the difference between the slaves chains thing and the black people chains thing. And then this is that most Muslim women, whether they're hijabi or the majority of them that aren't hijabi, will see somebody who is trying to make overtures, a politician doing that, as something positive, which is why they do it. I mean, they have focus groups. They have people who look at these things and they say that, this will be well received. And they are politicians. They ultimately need to get votes. So they care more about votes than tweets. So they do it.
We should ask Muslims to do the same thing back, right? We should have a month that we celebrate non-Muslims, and Muslims who wear the hijab should take off their hijab to show solidarity. How about this? Given that non-Muslims put the hijab on to celebrate Muslims, we should have a month that celebrates ex-Muslims, and Muslim women can show their solidarity and support of us by taking off their hijab, just in one video.
If only one of us had an organization with over 2 million people who could actually make that happen in real life.
Oh, but that would not happen, even with
Do it,
okay.
Armin. Do it.
Okay,
organize it.
Do what?
Okay,
like a ex-Muslim celebration month where Muslim women take off their hijab. Okay,
Ramadan. Make it
Ramadan. Okay, sounds good.
That's it. That's the next one. That's the ex-Muslim month, and then during that, what we do is we do intermittent fasting. We do weights.
Oh yeah. So actually, it's actually interesting because during the Ramadan, some people are saying in solidarity with Muslims, they're fasting even though they're not Muslims. So during the during Ramadan, Muslims could try bacon for just to show their solidarity. It could even have a positive message. You could be like, I'm a Muslim, but I think people should be able to leave Islam. We don't like the persecution against ex-Muslims. We think they're being unfairly treated. And even though I'm a Muslim and I support and I believe in Islam, I want to support ex-Muslims. So in solidarity with us, they could try bacon and they could take off their hijab.
Bacon's also bad for you. It's like smoking, right? I mean, you don't want to have too much bacon.
Well, okay, not bacon, then a lean part of pork. Just pork meat. It doesn't have to be bacon.
Why does it? Why can't we just do? Why can't it just be vegetarian? There's a lot of people.
There's no haram vegetarian food.
We got to find something else that's haram, that doesn't have any other sort of. We have to find, anyway. We'll brainstorm on that. We'll do that.
But and if you think if you say, well, but that's a sin in Islam. Well, you could do tawbah after. Then you'll be fine.
Yeah. I think we can find other ways to do it. James Lauerman is asking. Actually, I love this question. This is a really good question. I am PA in California. PA, I assume, means physician assistant. Let me know if I'm wrong. I'm sorry if I am. I have been doing telemedicine for 6 weeks now, and I really enjoy it. The Future is not just a Leonard Cohen song. So I love that you mentioned The Future by Leonard Cohen, which is an absolutely amazing song. The first time I heard it was on the Natural Born Killer soundtrack. Natural Born Killers is one of the best soundtracks of all time. So go check it out. It's actually got 2 Leonard Cohen songs on it. So, and you're talking about telemedicine. And that is actually another change that I think is going to happen. My doctor, his office has been closed for this entire period, but he is doing telemedicine calls. There's a lot of great telemedicine tools that are out there for doctors' offices to use that are HIPAA compliant, as in patient confidentiality issues are addressed. They do scheduling, they do all kinds of things, prescription handling, and calling into pharmacies, and it's fantastic. I think a lot of doctors. Medicine as a profession is overall very sort of, they like to cling to their traditions. Like electrocardiograms are still called EKGs in the US. The stethoscope hasn't changed in 200 years. So they like to stick to their tradition. A lot of them are still very, very sort of hesitant to move on to telemedicine and use some of the new technology. Now they've been forced to do it. And they've been forced to do it. They found out how convenient it is. And
next question.
This is a very interesting question, Armin. It's one of the biggest changes that is going to happen, right? It's boring to you,
yes,
but it's very interesting to James, who is a PA, and ask us anything about anything and everything. And so I am answering the question because I find it fascinating as well. So but yes, I think that it is going to be the future in more doctors' offices. It's going to completely transform healthcare and the way we deal with our doctors in the future. I think it's going to be awesome. Next question, yours.
No, you go ahead.
I'm going to ask a boring one because I like the boring one. Well, boring compared for you, not for everybody else. How many people do you guys think that was a boring question? I thought that was a fantastic question.
Well, you're only going to get responses from people who don't find it boring now. So that's going to be your question is not going to be the results of this question is not going to be scientific. Like it's not a scientific poll, so I will not accept the answers. Do not even bother answering that question. All right, Shubham, it's saying the whites are so mad about. Read that one. Cultural appropriation.
Well, this is the question. Ronnie's saying the whites are so mad about cultural appropriation, while most of us actually born in different cultures love it when foreigners accept our artistic culture. That's right. That's true. People in Pakistan.
That's racist, though. Shubham, you're being racist by generalizing all whites.
Dude,
so
when
I'm gonna call Shubham as racism.
When she was wearing like saris and everything, everybody loved it. They're like, "Oh my God, she's putting our culture out there in the world." But what are you gonna do? All right, go ahead. Next question.
I already picked that one. You picked something. You missed a whole bunch of questions at the top. You gave up on looking for them.
Questions. I'm still scrolling. Oh, there's something I saw about.
You repost your questions if we didn't answer them.
Okay, here we go. Matt Rose. Look, this is a great question. Amazing question. It said, "What's important here is that Ali, what happened to your COVID beard? I'm still growing mine too." So here's what happened to my COVID beard. It was going really, really well. It's going really well. Armin's gonna love it.
I have to pick the questions because you're not picking good questions. I'll look for something.
Anything and everything. Okay, so I had my COVID beard. A lot of my cousins, we have this like weekly WhatsApp call where we compare our beards to see who's got the longest beard. And I was losing. I was losing horribly. I was in second place, but I was tied for second place. And eventually it just got to be a little too much. And I noticed that I don't know, I was just repelling a lot of people around me that I don't want to necessarily repel. And I got rid of it. I don't like the fact that my face is out now, but so whatever. Is that short enough for you, Armin?
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention.
All right, go ahead. Choose the next question. You've had time.
I can't. There's so much. I have to scroll all the way up.
I just answered that question so you could find. Oh God, Armin.
All right. Oh, here.
Taking
I found something. Guys, repost your questions if we didn't answer them. I'm not going to scroll all the way up there. So what is this?
Right.
Somebody mentioned my name. That usually grabs my attention. James saying, Armin, were you really without a mask in that photo with the doctors and your wife? I think you lied to me when you said it was an old photo. No, it was an old photo. I post a lot of pictures with my wife. And a lot of people are now. I lost a couple of friends. Saying, "Oh my God, you're not social distancing." They're not from now. Like I'm posting pictures of me and my wife traveling, and going to the beach and going outside. So many people like, "Oh, why are you not social distancing? What is this?" I think James is joking, but some people are actually very serious, and. My wife is not here. I haven't seen my wife for months. So any pictures you see with me and my wife on my Facebook or my Instagram is not recent. I just miss hanging out with her, so I keep posting those pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a question here from.
But I don't even have a choice not to. I mean, I would be social distancing, but here where I am, like the quarantine, and you have I have a quarantine card. You don't get to go outside without a quarantine card. You don't get to go outside without a mask. Everywhere you go, they have like guards and police, and there's lines, and every line is if you're too close to somebody, there's going to be the soldier coming in with and telling you to social distance. So where I am, you don't even have a choice not to social distance, and the airport is shut down, so you can't even travel. So, but I would. Even if there wasn't force, I would still be social distancing,
Okay. So next question from Satyakam Pradhan. He's saying, excuse me, Ali, what is your take on vaccination by Oxford? Is it safe when news about vaccine for HIV used for CCP virus? I don't understand the second part of your question, but the first part I'll say that I think it's encouraging. I mean, there's what he's talking about is that in Oxford University, they have actually announced that they have a vaccine that is effective so far in in monkeys, and they want to sort of fast track it. And they're basically leading the race to having a successful vaccine for COVID-19. Of course, it has to be tested. It has to go through. Even if you super fast track a vaccine, it takes at least a year to 18 months if you're being super optimistic. To get a vaccine out there, because you can't put a vaccine out there and then take the risk of causing some sort of terrible side effect on a whole bunch of people. You have to test it in humans properly before you do it. But if they're ahead of the race, I mean, that's great. We should all hope for a good, rigorously vetted vaccine, even if it's in a short time scale, to come out, because the sooner that happens, the sooner this COVID-19 disease can just be like all the others. Right, need a vaccination and a treatment. So I think that's a very good thing. The HIV vaccine, whatever you're talking about, HIV did not have a vaccine, still doesn't have a vaccine. Actually, even today, the treatment is extremely effective. But the reason for that is HIV is a retrovirus. It's a kind of virus where it's really hard to make a vaccine for this coronavirus, and other viruses is not as difficult. So it's a totally different story. The other thing is, HIV attacks the immune system directly, and with vaccination, what you're depending on to get that is immunity, getting immunity. So that also makes it very, very complicated. So next one, Leonardo is asking how Arabic language is important for the Islam. So
or why?
I assume they're saying how important is the Arabic language for Islam?
I mean, God apparently chose the Arabic language to speak to humans because it was the most complete, best language, the bestest of all best language in the world. Muslims keep reminding you that non-stop is so annoying, which is very interesting because, okay, so they mentioned that Arabic is the perfect language for God's message. And that's why the Quran came in Arabic, because no other language would be able to do the job. And that's why a lot of Muslims are forced or encouraged, depending on where you are, to learn the Arabic language, even though it's not their mother tongue. Most Muslims are not Arab. I think it's only 20% of Muslims that are Arab. So most 80% of Muslims, Arabic is not their mother tongue, and depending on where you are, you either learn to. A lot of people don't learn Arabic, and they just, if they want to learn about Islam, they just read the translation to their language. But they are very much encouraged to learn Arabic because they say that it's not going to be the same unless you read it in Arabic, which is nonsense. You could, if you read the translations, even though it's not a perfect translation, what you could do is you could read all the commentary of the people that commented on the verses who were Arabic speakers, and the commentary of Arab speakers on the verses will make it completely clear to you what they thought about it. So you don't need to learn Arabic. But Muslims are told that the best way to understand the Quran is to know Arabic. But a lot of Muslims learn how to recite the Quran in Arabic without actually learning Arabic. Just learn how to read it without knowing what it means, because they think there's a lot of brownie points that you could get from God by just reciting it, even if you don't know what it means. But many people are actually also encouraged to just learn Arabic. In Iran, it's mandatory to learn Arabic as part of the school system, because it's the language of God, apparently. But the way that I hated the Arabic courses, even though I aced all of them in school. Almost, no, not all of them. Almost all of them. But I really hated it because I thought it was a useless skill. But now I wish I took it more seriously, because the way that we study Arabic, we just learn how to pass the exams. I mean, even though we studied Arabic for many years in Iran in high school, I can't say a single sentence right now in Arabic, even though I did really good in my exams. I wish they were teaching it in a way that you could actually use it rather than just, pass grammar tests and stuff like that. But yeah, that was a long answer.
Yeah,
Right.
no, I like it. Well, Matt he's asking, how important is English for Christianity? Not English. That would be Aramaic or Hebrew, really, for Christianity. Hebrew for Judaism.
Greek. I would say actually it would be Greek.
Aramaic.
No, Greek.
That was the original one.
I think that's the original is Hebrew and Aramaic.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you look at the history of the Old Testament, the people that were there was a heavy push for translating everything into Greek after the Hellenistic era, because they thought that that's the best language to communicate the Bible, right? So even though they weren't like Muslims, the Jews, unlike the Muslims who claim that the language that we got this from is the best language to communicate the scripture, a lot of Jews were like, yeah, we got this in Aramaic and Hebrew, but this is not the best language to communicate this. And there was a heavy push to translate everything to Greek. That's why a lot of the original sources that you get doesn't the oldest sources that you get from the Old Testament doesn't have the original Aramaic or Hebrew. Some of them have, some of them don't. And if you actually look at during the Hellenistic era, when the Jews were translating the Old Testament into Greek, they changed stuff based on the political needs at the time, or based on their interpretation of what the text wanted to say. And those changes are what stayed. So you could argue that the actual origin is from the Greek translations, not the Aramaic and the Hebrew scripture that was originally made. So there's that.
Yeah, there is that. So, okay. So another. Oh no, that was a virtue signaling one. Someone is saying, I think Sohan is saying Armin is canceled, right?
Yes, because I don't know what I said. Oh, I think it was the cat dog thing.
The cat dog thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you have anything else?
I wanted to show this to everybody.
Yeah, sure.
For people that are saying, why can't they give us super chats? This is why you can't give us super chats. But we have to mention, because the audio version of this might go out. soon as well. So can you explain what we're looking at here?
So what we're looking at is a message from YouTube, and YouTube is saying your channel is no longer eligible to monetize. Why? Because they've gotten feedback, and YouTube thinks that we post harmful or hateful content that is incendiary, demeaning, or promoting violence or hatred, especially on the basis of protected characteristics. I would like to, as an example of this, tell you that we had an interview with a young man, brilliant man named Leon Korteweg from the Netherlands. And he used to be a former right-wing nationalist. He was even part of a neo-Nazi group at one point. And we interviewed him to talk about how he de-radicalized and became a leftist who doesn't believe in any kind of nationalism at all. So he's as far as left as you get. Okay. And this guy was and he was telling us about how deconversion and de-radicalization from white nationalism helps. YouTube took down that video because all their algorithm saw was white nationalist. Okay, so his episodes are not on our YouTube channel. Like, you can find them elsewhere. You can find them on iTunes and other places. You can't find them on YouTube because YouTube would not let us, and even though the whole thing was against white nationalism and against white supremacy. So this is the problem with YouTube. It's actually really dumb. They have done this before to other people. We've started campaigns to bring it down. Right now, fortunately, this isn't like, it's not like they're taking down the channel. They're demonetizing us. But this is why it's so important for us to have. That's why the patrons, many of whom are here in the chat, they're like, what you do for us is absolutely amazing. And I don't think I can express how grateful we are to you, because we do have a team that works on these shows.
Yeah,
we've had a lot of guests who've done us the honor of, great guests who've done us the honor of appearing on it. And the patrons have made it all possible. So if you are able to donate, you can go to secularjihadist.com. You can do it for as little as $1 a month. If you like what you hear. And
so
go ahead, Armin.
No, our Patreon is the only source that we have right now. So please, like, there's no other way. Like, we've spent a lot of time and effort on this show, and we keep getting messages like this. So if you guys want to support the show, please look in the description. There is a link to our Patreon. But do not, again, I have to mention this every time, do not support us if you are in any financial difficulties at all, please, especially during this COVID-19 times. I mean, we lost a lot of our patrons because of the COVID-19 situation. So if you're not in a financial difficulty, please consider replacing them. But if you are experiencing financial difficulty, don't even think about supporting us financially. There's something wrong with you if you even thought about that. You could support us just by sharing our content, liking our videos, and stuff like that. By the way, Ali, you were going to say something when I interrupted you.
No. That's fine. That's pretty much what I was going to say. So yeah, so thanks to everybody for helping us out. So let's take a couple more questions. If you guys have a couple more questions, post them on there, and then we'll take them, and then we'll go from here. I will tell you about some of the other episodes that are coming. Now we talked about a lag of the episodes that we've done. We said that's some amazing episodes that are on Patreon. They're for our patrons, but there's been a delay getting them out to iTunes for the public to hear. The reason that happened is because we had a change in staffing. Our team, the people changed, so a lot of that stuff didn't get converted. The really good news is that you're going to see a lot of those episodes come out at a very fast frequency, not on Patreon, so not charged ones, but the free ones that come out on iTunes and all your podcast apps. So there's some great episodes coming out soon. You're going to see that in the next few weeks. And that includes a recent episode that I recorded with a comedian who is also grew up in a Muslim family. He's a rising comedian in New York. His name is Jafar Khan. Some of you may have seen his clip called The One True Religion, which was hilarious. So I got in touch with him, and I was really glad to have this conversation with him that I did. Another one is with an author named Habib Fani. He's a sort of a rock star on Quora. The site Quora has about 100,000 followers. He immigrated from Ivory Coast. It's a physician, doctor, came to the U.S., and he writes really interestingly in his book about how he was an immigrant from Africa to the U.S., how he was raised Muslim and then eventually became an atheist, and how he was Black African, where he was in the majority, and then he came here and he found he talks about the struggle of what it was like to not be accepted in the Black American culture, which was really fascinating as well. So we talked about a lot of things like that, and that episode also will be out soon. It's going to be on Patreon soon, and then it'll also come out later. So just some of the other things are coming out. B just saying that was the best interview. Which one are you talking about?
The one that YouTube removed.
Oh yeah, that was a really, really good one.
Right.
So another question, Ronnie.
Can you read?
Here you go, Armin. Are you? Oh, here you go. How are you both having fun during quarantine? Oh, there you go. Good question. Fun question. Armin clearly isn't, as you can tell. I think.
What do you mean I'm not?
I don't know. You seem like
How do you wait? What? Okay, I'm actually angry now. What makes you think I'm not having fun?
Well, everything you described. Well, first of all, you can't talk about the guy there who's running the whole thing. Right. You've got people, you can get shot for having marijuana. You have a card that you need to be able to get out. Your wife is on the other side of the world. You haven't seen her in what, months now?
Right. Yes.
Right.
Okay. That last part was sucky, but the rest is actually kind of interesting to me. Like when I go to this, like I've never seen a police state in action. To me, it seems like I'm walking inside a movie. Like when I go, every time I go outside to get food, I'm actually kind of excited. I'm like, look, what has changed today? Like every week, there's something else. Like they have like ropes around the wet market, and you have to enter this way, and there's more police, and there's no cars. It feels like a zombie movie. Like I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I don't know. I mean, it sucks for people, I don't know, that are going through it, but I don't think like I'm not suffering from it.
Yeah.
To me, it's like me, it's fascinating. The only thing that I don't like is that I shouldn't even say, because people are like, oh my God, people are suffering, and Armin is complaining about this.
No, do it. This is great. I love it. Come on, do it.
No, I'm not going to do it.
Armin, you have to. Come on. First world problems in a third world country. Say it. Come on, bring it up.
I can't get my, okay, it was, okay. Actually, I can't get my protein shake. Okay, I can't get my protein powder.
Oh, privilege. Oh my God. Living in the police state, I can't get my protein shake. It sucks. That's the worst
major problem.
That's the problem about living in a fucking
but on the plus side, I keep realizing things that I don't need, right? I keep, like, every time I get frustrated with something, I keep like adjusting. I'm like, wow, that's not a big deal. Like I went and looked, like, okay, protein shake, how many grams? I'm getting 25 grams of protein per scoop. And I'm like, that's just 2 eggs. And I'm like, wait, I could just have 2 eggs instead of having my protein shake, and I could have a different drink because I really like the taste. I'm like, oh, I could just replace that with this, right? And I'm like, wait, this is actually saying this is gonna. I'm not gonna go back to protein shakes now that I realize I could just get that with 2 eggs every time. I'm like, oh my God, that's gonna save me a lot of money.
You elaborated on this so much, and you thought that the protective effect of smoking on people with coronavirus was a boring story.
No, this is an important message, Ali. You're just not realizing.
Oh my God.
I just realized what I'm saying is that every time you think you can't live without something, once it's taken away from you, I mean, I'm realizing, like, yeah, this is fine, right? So more every time something, like, this is not just the only example. Like throughout my life, I keep on realizing how little things I need. Right?
Yeah.
I think I'm dependent on something until it's taken away from me, and it's fine. And I think that's a good.
Okay, now I'm gonna make this. So, how am I having? I have to answer this question too. How am I having fun during quarantine? Honestly, like, I like it. I am a homebody. I like staying at home. My partner gets really upset with me because she's like, you don't travel, we don't go on vacation. I'm like, well, I watch it on TV. I see travel shows, and that's good enough for me. Like, I've been everywhere. So, because I actually traveled a lot growing up, and I just like staying in one place. So I am doing very well with this. I'm having a lot of fun with my daughter. I'm seeing her grow, like, in real time. We do a lot of really fun things together every day. I'm learning a lot of things. I'm actually working out. I'm working out now, and I've lost weight. So that's been going well. And the important thing, and this is an announcement, this is what I want to tell you guys. is I'm plotting out a novel. I'm writing my first novel. It's a thriller novel. I think I've talked about it here before. It deals with the original location of Mecca and the missing part of the Sana manuscript, which is one of the earliest manuscripts of the Quran. So it's I'm really excited about it. I'm not going to say anything more about it right now until the details come out. I am co-writing it with a friend of mine who's also a physician I went to med school with, and she's an amazing writer named Simi Rahman. And we are currently in the process of plotting it out. And once we have a good amount done, the way that we're going to publish this is we're going to put out one chapter online every week. And it will evolve like that. So it'll be like a chapter episode. And then eventually when the book is complete, we're going to go ahead and publish it. So stay tuned for that. I mean, it's not going to happen for another like 6 or 7 months, but we're sort of working on it. And I'm just super, super excited about it. Instead of writing nonfiction, we were talking about storytelling. So we're going to go with that. Susanna saying they also talked about erectile dysfunction. Oh, she's talking about the interview with Habib, the author. And yes, we had a really interesting discussion about erectile dysfunction. So if there's any of you guys out there or girls who are really into erectile dysfunction, interested in erectile dysfunction, fans of it,
fans of it,
or, well, yeah, there's all kinds of people. Diversity is our strength. Well, strength, and I mean the point is, yeah, check it out. Check out that interview with Habib Fani. Okay, Armin, 9 more minutes. One more question.
By the way, I didn't even answer what I'm doing for fun. I'm just doing the same thing I do for fun usually. I'm finishing a lot of content on Audible, and yeah, that I'm running and doing that. So that's, I mean, I used to do that before the quarantine, but I'm doing the same thing as before. So, and by the way, I'm not running like people are like, oh, how could you be running if you can't go outside? I'm just running around my house, just around the house. So that's all.
Sorry. Somebody else asked. I don't know who this was. Do you believe in aliens or ghosts?
That's Muscal. I don't believe in ghosts, but I do believe in. I do believe in intelligent. I think statistically, it's very likely that there's intelligent life somewhere other than here in the universe, given the center, given what's needed to have life, and what's needed for that life to eventually become intelligent, and given how vast the universe is. Statistically, it seems like it's very likely that there's intelligent life somewhere out there, but also given how unlikely it is, wherever that intelligent life is, it's going to be so far away for them not to ever be able to visit us. That's the most likely. Again, none of this is 100%. None of this is like I'm certain about, but I think this is what I believe in. This is the most likely scenario, I think.
I completely agree with that. I don't believe in ghosts, but in terms of aliens, it's actually very unlikely that they're not.
Right.
There isn't intelligent life. I mean, we've got hundreds of billions of stars in the Milky Way alone.
Okay? Yeah, in one galaxy.
And we've got in one galaxy, and there are hundreds of billions. That's a lot. Hundreds of billions of galaxies,
right, in
the universe, at least. So,
but even if you're even if you're on the closest star to our sun, it's going to take light years for you to, it's going to take years for you to even get to us, even if you were traveling at the speed of light, which is, this is beyond, like, if you're in another galaxy, then even forget about it. Like, you could be, God, you could have godlike technology, and you will still never be able to visit us. So probably it's out there, and probably we will never, ever, ever make contact with them. Yeah.
Anyway, guys, I think, Beej, one more question. I'd like to hear Ali's thoughts on his daughter growing up in a post-pandemic world, like so many have grown up in post 9/11 now. I think it's. I feel like it's going to be more positive. I think a lot of good is going to come out of this pandemic thing. It's 9/11 was a political situation where there was one tribe against another. The pandemic is like everybody's in the same boat, so everybody has to work together. I think that even if it doesn't do that for some really stubborn and obstinate governments, people will sort of realize that everybody is in this together. and it's up to us to prevent it. I think that's a really nice lesson. I do feel bad for her because she has friends that are the first friends she ever made in her life in her daycare that she's close to. And one day she came home and then she could never go back. And she probably won't go back for the rest of the year. So she does talk about that and she brings it up sometimes. I feel sad about that. But I think overall, after this in a post-pandemic world, it's going to be good. I think I'm more optimistic than I am pessimistic about it.
Did you not expect a little bit more unity between humans from different countries when you deal with a pandemic?
I think
you would think.
I think I'm seeing I'm not talking about different countries themselves. I am sort of seeing a lot more just general people who are understanding this. Everybody's socially distancing. Remember, the reason you wear masks isn't to protect yourself; it's to protect other people from yourself in case you're infected. Right? That's why you do it, and people are doing it. People are doing it all over the place here. And another thing I've seen, and I've talked about this a lot.
No.
Ontario has a premier here who's a conservative, who I barely agree with on anything. I did not like the guy.
Yeah, you mentioned this last time.
Yeah, but I think that he's handled this very well. He's brought a lot of people together.
No, but that's just an anecdotal. Like what I'm saying is that
I think that's happening everywhere. I'm saying that experience.
Yeah, but that's
a lot of people.
Yeah, that's just one experience. But what I'm saying is that the theory was that if we get like invaded by aliens or if we get attacked by this force of nature that all humanity has to deal with at the same time, there's a lot of movies and a lot of people speculating that will unite humans together and they will put all the differences aside against this external threat, right?
Yeah.
And there's some other movies and some other people with theories that say like, no, it would do the exact opposite. People will come up with different solutions and they will divide them. And some people will say it's fake, some people think it's real, and actually it will make people more divided. And I think based on what you see on COVID-19, it does seem like it's a little bit of both, right?
Yeah, it is. It is kind of a mixed thing. I mean, there is polarization, the right and left, and that kind of stuff is.
Yeah, I mean, you would think, like it's so weird that with mentioning right left in response to a virus, like if there's anything that should be like okay, right left doesn't apply here. We're dealing with a force of nature. You would think like all of that would go out the window, but apparently we have a right left divide in response to a virus. Like, really, what the hell's going on?
Hey, listen. Here's the unity factor. I always think of traditionally the right and the conservatives have always been about that. If a woman wants to abort her fetus, they're so pro-life, or her embryo. Forget about the fetus, her embryo. They're so pro-life that if she wants to do it for economic reasons because she can't afford to, they're like, it's okay. Listen, forget about the economics. The human life is more important. Now, with this pandemic, they're like, listen, guys, we need to reopen the economy. If some of the humans will die, that's okay.
Okay, you're doing a straw man. Okay, I'm on the other
side
of this.
I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to say.
What I'm going to say. Okay, you said you know what I'm going to say. Here's the challenge.
Yes. Go for it.
But what's the steal man? What's the steal man?
Say it.
Okay, so the strawman version of it is like, oh my God, these right-wing people don't care about lives. They care about the economy more than they care about human life.
That's not what I'm saying. But
no, anyway. I'm giving you the worst strawman ever. Okay, so and to be fair, there are examples of those people that do seem to care about more money more than people's lives, and you could highlight those. But if you want to steelman the right. A steelman that I disagree. Well, actually, okay. So a steelman that is actually harder to challenge, and actually, you could tell me what you think about this, Ali. Is that it's not just about the economy. Poverty kills.
Poverty
kills. They're like, when people are poor, they're not going to be able to take care of themselves. They're not going to be able to afford better health care. They're not going to be able to afford exercising, getting better food. And, we're not saying save the economy for the sake of economy and people's lives be damned. The economy has a direct impact on people's lives and even life expectancy and stuff like that. So that's the steelman. So it's,
That's a steel man. That's wrong. That's kind of like when they say, hey, the Democrats are going to take away your guns. In the U.S., they say that. I mean, nobody else in the world really has that debate that much. The Democrats are going to take away your guns and violate your First Amendment. It's not true. There's absolutely no Democrat that.
Okay, but what's your response with the steelman of that?
I know. So I'm telling you, there's absolutely no one. There's no liberal or left. Virtually no left.
Don't say no one. There are examples.
Okay, so what I mean, almost no. Okay,
yeah.
Almost none. Who the mainstream opinion is not that we should not open up the economy as fast as possible. Nobody's saying that. Many of the liberal
there are people
working class people. They're saying that they want the economy to open, but they want it to open in a safe and responsible way, right? So that we know what's going on. We know what the prevalence and the incidence of this disease is. We know what the mortality rate is. There's a good amount of testing. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and you have an actual plan that comes in different phases. And that's the way they're doing it. And there's absolutely no one on the left who disagrees with it. They just want to do it.
Don't say no one. You're saying okay. Both sides do have their ridiculous.
Everybody who's hearing this knows what I mean.
But let me actually tell you.
You're doing the hashtag not all thing. Of course, like not all. Right?
Okay.
But this is what's happening. So that's what people want to do, right? So it's not a matter of that they don't want to and they want to destroy the economy completely. They don't want to do that. Okay, but on the other hand, you have people who are saying open the economy now, free America now.
Right.
Those are the people. They're literally advocating for doing this in an irresponsible way against the medical advice of every expert on pandemics.
Right. So here's the thing. Here's a devil's advocate to all of this. Okay, so if some people are saying, look at what Sweden is doing. Okay. Sweden is not doing any quarantine and just telling people to just be responsible themselves or any of the closing and everything. And they're getting a lot more higher case, like as you expect, they're getting higher cases, but they might go through this faster. Like they might have higher cases now, but they might have higher cases in a shorter amount of time. And they're going to develop herd immunity faster than any other country, right? Some people are saying maybe the Sweden model was the way we should have gone because it's not going to change the numbers of how many people get the COVID case overall, even though they're getting it in a much shorter period of time. And, they're not going to get that much damage to their economy compared to other countries. No, I don't know. So, but the thing is that the problem with that model is that if you get too many cases too fast, then your healthcare system is going to get overrun and overwhelmed, and a lot of people are not going to get access to, going to die for other reasons just because your healthcare system cannot is over.
More people will also have COVID-19.
Yes, but what do you think about meeting it in the middle? So for example, if you have too many empty beds in the hospital, you're slowing it down too much. What do you think about that?
No, Armin, you're not slowing it down too much.
I'm asking. I'm not saying. I'm not claiming anything. But I'm just doing the devil's advocate. Right.
I'm going to say three things to that. Okay, the first one. In terms of actually, Karen already said it. She said herd immunity. We don't know if there's any herd immunity to this. Right now, there's evidence that people who had this and got over it are getting reinfected. Okay, and this is coming out from a bunch of different places. So we don't.
But not by the same rate. It
may not be at the same rate. The second thing is that there is going to be almost certainly another strain of this, or not necessarily another strain, but this is going to come back in the fall. In September. It would be kind of surprising if it doesn't. Hopefully it doesn't. It's not 100%, but there's likelihood that it will. The third thing is when you're flattening the curve, you're not just talking about hospital capacity. I know that in those diagrams it says hospital capacity. What you're talking about is buying time until, remdesivir, this new viral drug that has come out that the FDA is going to green light, right?
Right.
Now you buy enough time so that these medications come out. So that a vaccine, you're closer to a vaccine.
But the vaccine is way too far out for us to wait for that. The medications that will remove the symptoms, we might be closer to that than we are to the vaccine.
So what you do is you do it in phases. It's not all or nothing, right? This whole idea of
that's what I'm saying. it's not all or nothing. Some people are saying like you do not flatten the curve so much that you're dealing with this for so long and you cripple the economy, but you also you shouldn't let the peak of the graph, the curve, for it to have such a high peak where it just destroys.
You can flatten the curve a lot and start slowly opening up the economy. You can.
No, right? you can't overdo the flattening. You could shut down every goddamn business there is. Like you can. There is. Nobody's doing like there is a way to overdo it, right?
Yeah. There is a way to overdo it, but now the idea was, look, first, what you wanted to do is you wanted really strict measures because you didn't know what you were dealing with.
Exactly. That's going to be
okay. Now that you know what you're dealing with, you know that the mortality rate is a lot lower. You know that there's at least one drug that the FDA is going to green light and go ahead, and trials are showing promising results. You know that Oxford University has a vaccine that now works in animals and is on track to go. You can start relaxing. You know that people are more aware about wearing masks.
Actually, that was going to
hold on. The importance of social distancing, they're more aware of it. So now you can even have the honor system that, okay, you can start opening this, you can start opening that, just take these precautions, right? Seating in restaurants has to be a little different, the way
yes.
And you slowly open it up. And that is a way to do it. That's the way to do it.
That was going to be my own response to my own devil's advocate, is that you cannot, like, let's say even if the Sweden model works and people overdid it, you cannot decide that we should have done that with that, even if it, like, it's not going to be, but even if it is, right, you cannot decide that would have been the best course of action with 2020 hindsight, right?
You can't.
The most responsible thing would have been to
overreact,
to overreact, and then slowly decide whether you're overreacting or not. Okay, you have to start with overreacting rather than letting it rip, and then they're like, oh my, like, because you can't go back, or you can't really go back with the damage of overreacting. But if you do overreact and decide, okay, we could slowly let things open, it's easier to go from overreacting to not overreacting than to underreact to all along. Like, it's too late once you let the virus. Like, imagine if we realized that underreacting was a bigger problem. You can't undo that. You have spread a disease that you didn't know how devastating it is, and you can't put the genie back in the bottle. Right? Is that the saying?
Yeah. Look, listen. There's also another.
Am I using my metaphors right? I don't know.
Yeah. There's and you're absolutely right. So that, but the other thing is it an overreaction? Because then you hear people from other states, for instance, and again, I'm going to use the U.S. example because
we hope it's an overreaction. It should start with an overreaction. If it's not an overreaction, then we didn't do it right.
So there are some states, for instance, where people might say, in the United States, they might say, well, hey, listen, we don't really have that many cases, so why are we going through all the social distancing measures that when most of those deaths are happening in the tri-state area, New York and New Jersey, right? And so in Connecticut. So why is it happening there? Well, should we do the same thing? Can't we open up our businesses? Well, there's a cause and effect issue. One of the reasons it hasn't hit you that hard is because you are taking those social distancing measures. Saying, well, why should we do all this stuff? Because our cases aren't that high. Well, actually, your cases aren't that high because you took those measures. So don't, be patient. And it's really tough to say be patient because I am a privileged person, right? I haven't lost my job. I can work from home, still doing okay. But there's a lot of people who really, their restaurants have been shut down. They're not getting paid. They can't pay their rent. They can't pay their mortgage. So for them, it is a much more serious issue. And many of them are actually working class people. I mean, they're not. And so it is an absolute priority for everybody, whether they're liberal or conservative or whatever, to open up the economy ASAP. The only difference is that one side right now, unfortunately, it just doesn't want to do it safely. They don't fully understand. They're ignoring the.
By the way, to all the people that say, like, to all the people that don't like their politicians and are saying, like, because they don't like their politicians and they're saying, like, oh, we're not going to learn anything from this. It's not just about the politicians that you don't like. It's the scientists are going to learn a lot from this. Like, there's going to be books and studies and guidelines there's going to be endless reactions to this whole response to the pandemic based in the scientific community. Like, you have no idea how much literature is going to come out of this for the foreseeable future. So I think we're going to learn a lot from this, and I think the next one, the results. I mean, we already there's so much funding is now going to responding to this issue just because of this pandemic. So much extra funding is going to go to being prepared for the next one. So
right. So I have two questions that we got to do. So the last two questions. One is this came up last time. So Takia Watch, this is a new person. They're saying Ali said on Twitter that he would.
I know Takia Watch. Go on.
He's saying that he would attend many Trump rallies on purpose if he catches the coronavirus. Is he following up on the plan? And
that was a joke, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a joke. It was a joke. Right. The difference is that I was joking, and it was very obvious that I was joking. That if I got coronavirus, I'd go to Trump rallies. I'll tell you, the guy who wasn't joking is the guy who actually suggested that maybe we should look at injecting disinfectants into our bodies to wipe out the virus because it goes into the lungs. That guy wasn't joking.
When it comes to jokes, okay, so here's where I agree and disagree with Ali. I think, when it comes to actually doing something physical, or spreading any harm even if it's the mildest thing possible, like throwing shakes at somebody, okay? For me, that's the red line. You cannot do that. I mean, you can, but you shouldn't, right? I think that's my red line. When it comes to actual actions, right? I don't think that's my red line. Words, anything that goes past words. But when it comes to just words, I think even the darkest jokes are okay. So when it comes to dark humor, I mean, you might not find it funny, and you could be like, I don't think it's funny, but I think
disagree on this.
Yeah, I think well, okay, yeah. So I think if you're actually joking, and if you know somebody is joking, then anything anything goes.
Yeah.
Unless they actually mean it, then that's a huge problem.
Right. Matt Rose is saying, if you had a time machine, which time would you want to be in?
Does it as far in the future as possible? Because the more further in the future we could go, the more we're gonna be godlike, man. It's gonna.
I have absolutely no sense of nostalgia. It's weird. Like, people have nostalgia, they get nostalgic for the past. None. Don't want to be any place in the past. I think there were great times in the past. There are people that I'd want to go back and meet, maybe, but yes.
Why would you go to the past when you could go to the future?
Yeah, you'd want to go to the future. Don't want to. No interest in going to the past.
Okay, here's the thing. People are like, oh, I would want to learn about this or that. If you go far enough in the future, they're gonna have, visual representation of everything that happened in the past. Simulation, like you can see everything exactly how it happened.
Might even be able to enter a simulation in the past. Yeah, that's what we might be in a simulation. That's a whole Nick Bostrom thing, right?
When it comes to things that there's infinite number of sentences that you could finish the sentence with.
That's right.
Yeah, so they're all as equally unlikely.
Okay,
actually, just a thought. Given that some people argue that mathematically it's more likely that we're in a simulation than not, but we could have that discussion another time, and we could talk about it. Yeah, but that's interesting.
I think that's one of those. Whatever. Okay, so I think that's it. Is there anything else you want to talk about, Armin, or anything else?
No, just one last thing. Hit the like and subscribe button like it's Quran 434, or destroy the like button like your Shiva and it's your job. We haven't come up with a Christian version of this. I mean, some people mentioned Exodus, something, it wasn't as good, but these are the two things that we came up with.
Christianity's a nice religion, remember? So they're okay. They're fine.
No, we have to come up with a fun version for Judaism and Christianity. For right now, we have Islam and Hinduism. But do it. Don't just laugh at this or think it's not funny. Whether it's funny or not to you, hit all these buttons under the video, every single one of them, except the report button. Like, unlike, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, because it does make a difference, because YouTube thinks like our channel shouldn't be shared. Like there's something like the wording that we use, like when we say, I'm not gonna say it, but the words that we use makes the YouTube algorithm go like, oh, this YouTube channel should not be shared with other people. It should not get suggested, or should not be recommended. It should not show on people's feeds, even if they're subscribed. But if you guys if you engage with this video, if you leave a comment, if you like, if you share, if you watch a video that is recommended after you watch this video, then YouTube is gonna be like, oh, it's gonna outdo the signals that YouTube is getting for not sharing our videos, and we cannot reduce the things that is telling YouTube not to share our videos, because we want to talk about the things that we want to talk about, right? So we can't fix that. So you guys could help us feed the YouTube algorithm to make our channel grow, because it's really hard to grow given the things that we talk about.
That's right.
Oh wait, His Holiness is saying crucify the like button. Maybe that's good. Crucify the like button.
There you go. See? There you go.
There you go. Yeah, thank you, His Holiness.
All right, guys, everybody, thank you very much for joining us. That was a lot of fun, as usual. We are going for these Q&A things, these public Q&A things. We do one of these at the end of every month. So we're going to see you at the end of May, when Karen and me and Scary Spice are going to be celebrating our actual birthdays. We're all going to be the same age. So we are going to see you guys then. And thank you very much. Mike is saying thanks, guys. Live long and prosper, as always.
I can't do this.
Why can't you do it? It's so easy.
Yeah, I did it.
There you go.
I just have to use my other hand to adjust it first.
We're making that Star Trek sign. Yeah. I'm not even a big Star Trek fan, but okay. All right, everybody. All right. See you next time.
Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.